What's good, YouTube? It's your main man, ABD Hero, back again with another video. Today's video, I want to answer this question. Folks ask me, should LaMelo be preparing to get up out of Charlotte after his initial contract is up, or should James Borrego be out of town, win, lose, or draw, right? There's a conversation around those two things. No matter how good the Hornets are doing, no matter how bad the Hornets are doing, there's a faction who thinks that both of them should go at some point, right? Either you think LaMelo should get up out of town ASAP, or you think Borrego should get up out of town ASAP. We're going to talk about that in this video, and I'm going to play a clip from Chris Paul in which I think will add some credence or add a perspective to the LaMelo decision that I think most folks haven't heard before. Let's go.
AB the Hero, back at it, baby.
All right, so first things first, I appreciate every last one of y'all who get active with that like button right now. You can wait on the sub button, you know what I'm saying? You got some time to the end of the video to get on there. But first off, let's just get into it. All right, so here's this clip. This is Chris Paul. He is on Old Man in the Three. This is JJ Redick's podcast, and he's got some interesting things to say here that I feel like folks who are very pro LaMelo get up out of Charlotte needs to hear. Let's listen to Chris.
What's given me the biggest perspective is changing teams in my career. It's changing teams. And I would tell any guy who's been drafted to a team and is thinking about like leaving or something like that.
I'm not going to stop it too much here, but do you see why I said that we need to listen to this? We got Chris Paul, experienced guard, vet guard, highly respected in the league, and he's saying this is the message to anybody who has been drafted by a team and is thinking about leaving. I got something that you need to hear. Let's listen to Chris. Hall of Famer Chris.
Your situation is your situation, but always remember that team that drafted you sometimes has some type of loyalty towards you, right? Like when it's your team, it's your team. Right now, some crazy stuff happened and you got to go your separate ways or whatnot, but it's something to be said about being with your team. Because even though I went from New Orleans to the Clippers, like when I went from Clippers to Houston, that was a damn wake-up call. You know what I mean? Like, you get there and it's like, hey, nice to have you here, but it wasn't no loyalty from nobody to me there. You know what I mean? See how they traded my ass.
It was James' team.
Right.
Here, let me pause this here. And what is, I think is super unique as well about this conversation, all right, is for one, he acknowledges everybody's situation is different and something like really has to happen to you in order for you to feel like, yo, I got to get up out of here. All right. That's that. Also, I think it's so crazy because as you listen to Chris Paul talk here, remember that there was a time in which by all standards, he was done. There was a time in which folks felt like Chris Paul is done. He is washed. The way that people talking about Russell Westbrook right now, they used to talk about Chris Paul. And it's interesting to hear him talk because you'll hear this sooner or later. It doesn't sound like he ever thought that same way.
And so you just got to be conscious of that. Like, I feel like another team they may not have, but didn't even let me know that I was getting traded. And then you got to prove yourself over again. I think that's the thing that's made me competitive too. Like I was telling Monty last night, when I got to Houston, I remember one of our first games or something like that, we was playing somebody and the game was kind of close or something like that. And I looked at James, I was like, yo, give it to me. Give it to me. And I scored or whatever. And everybody was like, hey, yeah. And I'm like, what the hell are y'all so excited about? Like, I do this, right? And then I went to OKC, right?
And this is what I mean. When he was at OKC, it was literally like, yo, bro, you got this huge deal. Somebody gonna take it. Like, it's a swap. We trading Russ, who don't nobody want at the time, and for you, who don't nobody else want at the time. The money is too big, and let's just get it done.
So I remember being in practice at OKC, and I would do something and make a shot or something like that, and they was looking at me like, oh, he can play. The fuck you mean? You know, like it was that all over again, right? So started hitting clutch shots or something like that in OKC, and they like, oh man, he can play. Boom, get to Phoenix last year, and I was telling Monty last night.
He took OKC to the playoffs.
In Denver. It was in Denver earlier in the season, and the game was on the line, and I had the ball, and I went left, and like I hit a floater or something like that that locked the game up, and everybody was like, oh man, he could. And I'm sitting here like, well, damn. You know, but I'm telling you, like, a lot of people don't realize that's what you have to do over and over again and that's fine. You know what I mean? That's fine. But a lot of times when you stay with that same team, everybody know it.
So here's why I think that this is important, right? He's saying when you're with your original team, you don't have to keep proving yourself over and over and over again, right? Everybody in that organization has seen all of the greatness. They seen your steady growth, and they've watched you do that. So they already know. They know what they got their hands into, right? So oftentimes you might have a player who, like this situation right now with LaMelo, where especially with the fans, I would say more so than LaMelo, we don't actually know where he stands on this at the moment. But you have this swirling conversation about, yo, you should get up out of town. And what he's saying is you got to understand what that means when you go leave, right? There's an adage that is old as the day is long that says the grass isn't always greener on the other side. And for Chris Paul, there are situations where that grass has not been greener, right? You think about him leaving the Clippers, going to Houston, and going to play with James Harden. And initially that seemed like, yo, everybody was hunky-dory. Then they got to a place where they was bumping heads, and all of a sudden he finds himself in OKC. In the OKC stop in his journey, to me, is one of the most interesting, because that literally was the place Chris Paul was supposed to go to die. That's the place that Chris Paul was supposed to go for his career to die. And in his head, I'm a Hall of Famer. What do y'all mean? And then he ended up reasserting himself. I remember folks used to talk about his athleticism. He ended up being an all-star. All of that stuff took them to the playoffs, and it was a team that was supposed to be donezo, right? So I think that is a great perspective to the answer of, should LaMelo try to get out of Dodge on his first contract, right? Could he go to a team that will have the probably like owners, not ownership, but have the loyalty to him as the team who drafted him, right? As the Hornets, as that front office, as that fan base. Could he go and instantly get that same type of respect from a team, right? Who knows? It depends on like literally where he would go. But so for me, I would love to see him be able to ride out Charlotte for as long as he could, right? Double down, get that max contract and all of that stuff, right? I'm not of the initial reaction that, yo, as soon as you get the opportunity, bro, get out of Dodge, especially when we think about what they were trying to do. They already got Jello there. It looked like they were creating space for Zoe on this past offseason, but he didn't want it. And so it seems like they are invested in his future. So I would hate for him to go. Now, when it comes to the coach, right, we have the conversation of is James Borrego. If LaMelo is going to stay, does that mean we got to get rid of James Borrego? And I think that here's a fault of mine, is I am of the belief that, man, I would rather see you grow, fix the things that are wrong, than like for us to have to just go ahead and start over with a new coach, right? Because I do think that there's a it does make sense at times where you could bring in a guy who sees the chips that they have on the table and is like, oh, I know what to do with that. Just give me a shot, right? And maybe from an outside perspective, right, you're not as close to the situation. You might be able to come in and make different moves. We saw the Jordan transition from his original coach to Phil Jackson. We saw it happen with LeBron, where they had Blatt and then Lou took over. And we saw sometimes you move a coach out and then all of a sudden the team takes off. To me, I just wish that there was this way that these coaches, instead of having to literally be fired and then replaced, because a lot of times they end up just getting the guy off the bench. When you are going to get the guy off the bench to replace the head coach, to me that says somebody in the organization already had the answers, but somebody wasn't listening. I would love for James Borrego to just start listening. Right? Where you thinking cap at, bro? You said, damn, that's a good idea. Rotation, if he's hot, let him play a little bit longer. Hold on a second. This little pick and roll. Oh, wait a fast. I would love to be able to see him have that wake up call. So for me, I am not of the diehard group who thinks that Borrego has to leave, right? For that instance, right, where I'd rather see him grow. Also, on the second stint of that, I am not the type of dude who calls for folks' jobs, right? I'm not the type of dude. I wouldn't even get on here and tell y'all, hey, don't even watch such and such, because I would never even do that. Watch it. You know why? Because I know that everybody grows, right? In regular life, you are not the same person you were yesterday, right? If you went and watched AB the Hero's videos 5 years ago to what we're doing now, it's different. If you go and watch my videos a month ago to what we're doing, it's always evolving, always some evolution there. So even when it comes to like just simple as creators, I'm not the guy who is like, don't go watch that. Because even if folks are making mistakes now, that doesn't mean that they won't correct themselves later on. And oftentimes when there's some support behind people, it often incentivizes them to make those corrections a bit faster, right? So when you look at this Coach James Borrego situation, you have this strong group who's like, bro, you got to get up out of here. And for some people that goes like, man, let me make a change before they fire me. And then also there's some people who decide that I got to double down. Y'all trying to get me out of here? Well, y'all gonna have to do it. I'm gonna go out my way. I've seen it happen before. And so that's kind of where I stand. I would love to see James Borrego figure it out. All of a sudden they go on a run, and that core unit of Hornets players that we're beginning to know and love can stand the test of time. However, it's not missed on me that oftentimes we do see a coaching change happen and then elevates a team, right? Something, they start shaking things up in the front office and then teams elevate that way. So I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to it, right, if that was in the best interest of things, but I feel like I just know how hard it is to have built something and lose it, right? So I don't feel comfortable oftentimes trying to tear somebody else's stuff down, because I just always imagine that they worked as hard as I have to get what I have, to get what they have, right? So I wouldn't hate to be the person to make the call to tear somebody down, especially when I'm also of the belief that most things trickle down from the top, right? However your leader operates, that's typically how the next person in the middle management operates, and that's typically how you know what I mean, the people on the ground operate as well. So that's my thoughts on that. I hope if you can, go watch the full Chris Paul interview. Obviously it's Chris Paul, he got a ton of gems. Shout out to JJ and them, they have a great podcast, and we'll be checking out clips from them in the future. So let's get up out of here. We out. Peace.
No, not peace. +1, triple B's. We out.